Hello everybody, welcome back to Ketchup Court. I go by the name of Heinz, your friendly neighborhood ketchup man. Thank you so much for tuning in for another video. We are continuing our coverage from of the Nicholas Kassotis trial. The state is, I believe, they are resting, but they didn't officially say that they're resting, so I'm just gonna say that they're winding down their case, and we might be seeing the I don't know what else they're going to present tomorrow. They might officially say that they're resting their case, but we shall see. So much, and I mean so much to get through tonight. There was at least 6 witnesses, well, technically 5 new witnesses, and a witness that was back on, which was Agent Sands. So he was back on testifying today. So we're gonna go through all of them, but before we do that, just want to say, do not forget to hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really does help us out. Also, do not forget to share this stream with everybody that you know. Let them know that if you've missed any part of this trial, if you cannot watch all 7 hours throughout the day for whatever reason, this is the #1 place for you to catch up on all of these trials. So without further, let's just recap on what has happened so far. So for those that don't know, the background of the case is Nicholas Kassotis has been accused of dismembering and murdering his wife. The theory of the case presented is that he was doing all of this to have a new life with another woman after he was on the run. Sorry about that. After he was on the run from his previous first marriage, where a judgment of $1.5 million was against him. The defense, however, says that no, that's not the case. He's actually has been living in fear because of a man that goes by the name of Jim McIntyre letting him know that his life was in danger. So there he has been on the run since, and we've been going through so much testimony to cover all of this. If you have missed out on yesterday's testimony, or even any of our recaps, if you've missed out on any of our recaps, whether it be yesterday or just all of them, make sure that you check the description box. We have the playlist ready made for you to go and check out all of the recaps and catch up to speed. But even with that, I hope I have given you enough recap to bring you up to speed. I'm gonna go through a quick recap of day 5 witnesses, because there was quite a few witnesses that gave key testimony that I believe helped both sides, in my opinion. This case is a case that keeps on giving, in my opinion. But yeah, we heard on day 5, we saw the second half of the testimony from Nicholas Kassotis, interview, sorry, I meant to say, from Tracy Sands, testimony. So we saw his 26th of May 2023 interview, where he was essentially interrogated by law enforcement about his stories and what testimony he gave on their first interview on the 12th of May 2023. I know the fact that he's a lawyer and he gave these people interviews, he gave law enforcement interviews, when you know that you should always have a lawyer present for these interviews, or not even speak to the law enforcement at all. It's wild that a lawyer could do it. I've heard so many opinions, but these interviews may have helped him in some way. I'm saying that with a big smile, because we went through on day 5 recap how there was inconsistencies and glaring inconsistencies that he was actually found in the interview. So you go and watch the day 5 recap, but essentially that was one of the witness that was up testifying that we heard evidence from, and that was Tracy Sands. Lauren Sacher was the firearms and tool marks expert, and I believe that this witness particularly helped the defense, in my opinion, because they were analyzing and gave testimony in regards to the different cuts that they found on the bone. So they didn't do testimony regarding the cuts on the skin. It was most focused on the bone, and she gave testimony regarding to deep cuts that was made. So there is that, and as well as giving testimony, she said that those deep cuts could be made from power tools. That was one testimony that she gave, and she gave the rough depth or the inches that the cuts had made on the bone. So that was pretty much the testimony, and she said that is consistent with a saw from a toolkit that apparently Nick Kassotis had bought. But this is not the same. They didn't recover this toolkit from Nicholas Kassotis. They didn't have his DNA on it or anything like that. They didn't have the murder weapon for what had essentially happened, which was essentially, well, at least for the dismembering. And yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, we still don't know. We know from the medical examiner that gave testimony that there was trauma on Mindi, but it wasn't specified what caused the trauma or anything like that. So we are left scratching our head once again. So Christian Johnson, who was a special GBI agent, he also gave testimony in regards to gathering all the data, the bank records, all of that, and also confirmed that Nicholas Kassotis had made the payment for the Airbnb, that it was done by him. If we remember his interview, he had practically said that Jim was the one that was basically sorting out the places of accommodation. Maybe you can argue what he means by sorting out, or whether he was just telling them to go to this location and they would have to pay for it, or things like that. It was never ever cleared up. So then we heard testimony from Jay Burney, who was the one that was going through the cell tower location. He was primarily focused on the 28th and the 29th activity of Nick Kassotis. There was cell tower interaction when he entered the range. We have his vehicle entering the range, all of those things. So we have a cell tower putting him at the places where the body was found, which in my opinion just raised a bit more questions. We are going to go through all of my thoughts at the end of this, but that's all of day 5 witnesses. Let's go into day 6, because we heard testimony from Chris Czaplak, who was a friend of Nicholas from the army. We also heard testimony from Angela Wynn, who was Mindi's best friend. We heard testimony from Joseph West, who was an attorney that knew Mindi. We heard testimony from Cameron Nelson, who was Nick's friend as well. We heard testimony from Eva Thomas, who was Nick's first wife. And then we heard the closing, or at least the summation of all the evidence brought into this case from Tracy Sands. He was called back to the stand. Well, not really called back, because he was never finished, but he was just brought back. If you watch the Karen Reed case, this is very similar to what happened with Nicholas Guarino in regards to the text messages. They just brought him back and forth. So this is kind of what happened here today. So let's go through the testimony in depth, and let's start with the first witness that was called today, and that is Chris Czaplak. His testimony was quite interesting in my opinion, simply because of the fact that he gave some key background into Mindi and Nick's relationship and what had essentially happened there. He gave background in regards to meeting Nick in JAG, which is basically a Navy division. But there was a part of his testimony that I thought that was really key and stood out, was when he testified to hearing Nick say that he had a new phone number and email. It wasn't really specified the exact date, or but a year was given. and it was 2022, and he explained that Mindi and Nick were going to get his name changed, and says that his biological parents at the time even turned out to be not his real parents, and he was receiving alerts. Someone told him that he was receiving alerts in regards to his life being in danger or something along those lines. Let's watch and hear it from his own mouth.
And the phone number was disconnected. So July 2022 was that was the first time I had heard from him, and it was from a new email.
So it was July 2022. We have 100% confirmation now, but the email that that was sent to him wasn't brought in. I'm guessing for obvious hearsay reasons, to go through what was actually said in the email. It was only his testimony. But let's continue.
We exchanged some messages, found a time to set up a call. He provided me with a new phone number, and we had a call to catch up that month.
And during that conversation, was there any discussion by him about a name change?
Yes. He had, so one of the topics was why I hadn't heard from him in so long. And he explained that he and Mindi were changing their names, were getting new social security numbers, were getting new passports and driver's license. He explained the reason behind that was that he had learned that the family he thought that he was the biological child of, he wasn't. He explained that who he thought were his biological parents and brother had been filing false complaints to the two bars that he belonged to, Virginia and Massachusetts. He was getting alerts on his credit history that people were opening accounts in his name, and learned later that who he thought was his family was behind that. So to avoid all of that, he and Mindi had cut off all communication and started changing their identity.
Cool. So we heard testimony there in regards to changing of identity, him receiving alerts. There was nothing about his life being in fear, which I can kind of understand in a way, because if someone from the FBI is telling you that your life is in danger, don't tell anyone about this, you wouldn't essentially go forth and tell someone about it. Maybe, in my opinion, I thought if you were to tell someone about it, or someone you can expect to tell someone about it, it might be Chris, because of the fact that they were attorneys, they go way back, they used to discuss cases and trial strategy, and I believe this is why the defense brought that particular testimony in, because they could be wrong. No, that was Cameron. So I don't believe he was involved with the Italy part when they traveled to Italy. Nonetheless, I don't think that's too important, but I do believe that his particular testimony was really key to show that he may have at least confided in him and try and get some kind of privilege going on, maybe hire him as a lawyer or something like that, seek legal advice at that time and have that information privilege. I don't know. He couldn't reveal it anyway, so so I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's me trying to rationalize it. The jury are not going to be thinking like that. The jury are going to think maybe you could have confided in him because he was actually your friend and he was also a lawyer as well, that you guys go way back, even to the Navy. So hello, Jay Stolly, thank you so much for joining. I'm very excited. Let's go through all of this. So so that I believe that this testimony really aided the defense, in my opinion, because it does give, at least especially around this time of July 2022, we know that they were on the run. So the time of July 2022, him telling him about all these things, it kind of aids the defense theory of the case.
Did he describe Mindi's condition?
He did in July, in that July 2022 conversation. He said that Mindi was pregnant and that they knew that the gender was a girl, and I was very excited for him. That was another big topic of that phone call. It was, I was happy for him. I thought that was great.
Yeah. So we heard testimony there that Mindi was pregnant. Let's go to the next part of his testimony to just, oh God, let's continue.
Early in the call, I asked him how Mindi was doing because I figured the baby must have been born at this point, and he mentioned that she had passed away. He explained that she had complications with the pregnancy, that she'd had high blood pressure and there had been some issues with her heart, that she had been hospitalized at least once, but that sometime before she could give birth, she passed away.
So this is the part that was really key, because this was when Nicholas had disclosed that she had passed away. But however, we didn't get a date for it. So the idea that is left here, and I'm gonna run it right back, because I didn't hear a date. I was really listening out for the date, but there was nothing given in regards to this time frame. So this might lead you to believe that this call happened around the same time that she was pregnant in June 2000, maybe around that June to August period, if you were going to grace it. But I'm going to go back. Let's listen again.
You could do another phone call. And I messaged him news because West on LinkedIn, and I thought that was good news because I know that he had tried to keep a very low profile.
So he had a request on LinkedIn, says that he was trying to keep a low profile. And
so I accepted it as soon as I saw it. I messaged him. He asked if I had time to catch up. We found a time on our schedules where we could do another phone call. And so sometime in early March, we connected again on the phone.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. So this was in March 2023, most likely. And this was when he learned that Mindi had passed away.
And what did he tell you during that phone conversation?
Early in the call, I asked him how Mindi was doing because I figured the baby must have been born.
So we did go through that earlier, but yeah. So at least we heard it from him that Mindi had passed away at March this was when he told his friend. This testimony, at least this part, is going to come in handy for why I believe that maybe this whole day has played into Nick's theory of the case more than we believe. But let's continue on. He gave testimony that he was told that Nicholas was involved in a cyber startup company. This was when they first spoke, and he also testified to contacting the tip line when the article was aired that Mindi was effectually dead. So he felt that what he was discussing with Nick was kind of material to the case, so he went on to give that info to law enforcement. And it was a quick cross-examination from Doug Weinstein. He basically asked whether the name request was under the name of Nicholas Stark, and he said yeah. And he says, yeah, you know what, let's go right to it. 1 second, let me go right to it here.
I am Doug Weinstein. I'm representing Nick Kassotis in this case. When Nick reached out to you in March of 2023 with a LinkedIn request, do you remember his LinkedIn profile?
I don't.
He reached out to you from a LinkedIn request under the name Nicholas Stark. Do you recall that?
Yes,
It was not Nick Kassotis, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
Right? So he reached out under Nicholas Stark. We have heard evidence that he had already changed his name in Missouri around this time. So that was essentially the testimony that you need to bring in, because if you were the case, what he gave to the police interview on Agent Sands 11th of May interview was, 12th of May, sorry, interview was that it was Jim McIntyre that had encouraged him to change his name to Nicholas Stark. So the question now arises, when did he get the time to update his LinkedIn profile or even create that LinkedIn profile? So this is one of those reasonable doubt moments being brought in, and this is, in my opinion at least, giving Jim Stark giving Jim McIntyre a bit of life at least in my opinion, because at least we're getting to the, in my opinion, I think we are getting to the territory in which the defense are trying to tether Jim's movements with Nicholas' movements. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Maybe I'm giving the defense too much credit, but that is something that I realized when Doug Weinstein was doing his cross-examination of the last witness, which was Agent Sands. But we will get to that. Let's move on to the next witness. She goes by the name of Angela Wynn, and she was basically giving testimony. And she was, if I missed it, no, I haven't. All right, so she goes by the name of Angela Wynn, and she was Mindi's best friend, and she gave testimony to meeting Nicholas and Mindi when they were dating in Virginia. She also says that she was told that Nicholas was working for Microsoft on a big money deal that would change her life. So again, this basically goes back. If we heard previous testimony from the parents and all of these things, you would know that most of this information likely came from Mindi, and the cross-examination pretty much didn't even highlight this part at all. So anyway, let me not get ahead of myself. Let's continue. So she also gave testimony that they were on the run because it had something to do with his parents and his life being in danger. Let's listen to that testimony right now.
That her and Nick were part of some sort of security breach. Yeah.
He was excited because she felt like she was about to get over the hump.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I was advised by Mindi that her and Nick were part of some sort of security breach that they needed to go into hiding for their own protection.
Did she go into any detail?
Not until the end, when she told me that the reason they had been on the run was because apparently Nick's parents weren't his real parents. Something about him, being taken away as a child. He was the son of diplomats. It was a wild story.
Do you recall the last time you spoke with Mindi?
Yes.
Roughly when would that have been?
Second week in October of 2022.
And what did Mindi tell you during that conversation?
That she was ready to come home.
What about her physical condition?
She had told me that she was pregnant.
Did she know the sex?
No.
Did she know the due date?
No.
Second of October. Wait, was it 4th? I think it was. Let me just go back a little bit.
Roughly when would that have been?
Second week in October of 2022.
I need to trust myself a bit more. But yeah, 2nd of October, she told her friend that she's ready to go home. And she also said that she was pregnant at this point. We all know that Mindi wasn't pregnant, but she said, I'm ready to come home. So at this point, you get the idea that the whole running for their life parts, all of those things is likely coming to an end now. And maybe all of this could be done. But again, based on her testimony, I still think it goes towards the defense theory of the case, because as Nick was saying in his interview, they had at this point moved to that she was getting more and more sick. You also have the testimony from her father, Frank, who testified to even seeing Mindi on the 24th of November looking even more sickly. So from that time, and based on this testimony, you can get the idea that that her health problems was likely worsening. But at the same time, we are not hearing that there is, we're not hearing that there was any update in regards to them still being in danger after this point. We should hear it if the danger hasn't subverted, but it gives the idea that she was likely that at this point Nicholas was likely getting her out of the picture, or getting out of or trying to kill her, or planning to kill her at this point, because we already know that he was talking to another woman on September 24th, and the woman gave testimony, Samantha Kolesnich, who was his third wife. She basically said that Nick was moving around again around the time of November. But anyway, I thought that her testimony aided with the defense theory of the case. All Doug Weinstein did on cross-examination was basically highlight that Nicholas was crying and saying that he was wishing he could have protected her more. And this was at the time that she had basically found out that Mindi had passed away. So she also gave testimony that he didn't even ask her in regards, he meaning Nicholas Kassotis, never asked her anything in regards to funeral arrangements or anything like that. So there was no redirect after this. That was the bulk of her testimony. The next witness was Joseph West, and I thought he was the most interesting witness out of all of them. He gave background in regards to meeting Mindi and Nick. He only met Nick one time, and he also said that she was working, Mindi was working for him at his law firm that he's been working at for many years, and he's actually he's more than a partner, actually. He's a chairperson or something like that, having shares in the law firm, pretty big law firm. But essentially, she was working for him as a legal assistant and left to go and do another work. This was around 2009 to 2011 or something like that. He also gave testimony that when Nick and her had got married, she was doing another job. But that was the extent of knowing Nick. And I thought that testimony was really key, because what he said later on was really weird. Like, I found this part to be really confusing.
Email said.
Sure. The email basically said that, I can read it. It said, "Hi Joe, I'm sorry to reach out multiple."
Okay, let's go back a bit so that we can get a date.
It's an email dated December 19th, 2022 from Nicholas Kassotis to you.
Okay, yeah, I've got that in front of me here, a hard copy in my office.
And do you recall what that email said?
Sure. The email basically said that, I can read it. It said, "Hi Joe, I'm sorry to reach out multiple times at work for personal matters. Is it possible to speak in the near future? And thank you, Nick Kissotis," and he left a phone number.
Did you later call that number?
Yes, I did.
And describe the conversation that took place.
I believe I called the same day I got this email, which was on or about December 19th. It says on here it was a Monday. I called and Nick told me that he said, "Bad news. I need to tell you Mindi passed away." And he advised me that she had gone into the hospital for, I don't remember what reason. My recollection is that he said she went in on a Saturday and overnight the Sunday became septic and died of a very bad infection.
Was there any discussion about a funeral?
No, there was no discussion about a funeral, but there was a discussion about a memorial service. He had mentioned that he was hoping to get back to DC sometime after the new year and have a memorial service, and he wanted to be sure to invite me to it.
Were you subsequently invited to any memorial service?
No, I was not, and that was the last, communication I believe I had. I'm not sure I had with Mr. Kissotis about Mindi.
After receiving this email, what did you do with it? I filed it, and it's automatically archived in our firm archives for a period of time anyway. And quite frankly, more or less forgot about it for a couple of months anyway. I think that's all I can remember that I did with it.
It's in my opinion, this was a damning testimony. There was no cross-examination done after this as well, but I thought that this really undermined Nick's case completely, because we're gonna hear more testimony in regards, and I'm gonna highlight this again, but the fact that he messaged him out of the blue on the 19th of December 2022 saying that Mindi had died, and this was a message still under his old name, so he hasn't changed his name yet, so he's still under his old name, Nicholas Kassotis. Why he would even reach out to him is beyond me. Doesn't make sense. But I don't even think Joseph West was even mentioned in Nick's interview with the police as someone that he was in communication with. So this testimony just overall caught me at a complete head loss. The one part I want to highlight is that we've heard so many other causes of death for Mindi. It was stroke one time. We heard that from the interview. It was having heart problems at one point, and now she became septic and died of an infection. So that's 3 causes of death now, or manner of, I don't know. I don't know how it's pronounced at the hospital, but that's 3 ways of dying basically. So it's another inconsistency that just doesn't, in my opinion, help Nick. In all fairness, if I'm trying to be fair to Nick, this would be the biggest frame job, because it's just so sloppy. It's just so sloppy. And he says that someone had basically had all the details of his life, and he was basically trusting this Jim McIntyre person, giving him all information of his life. So if this Jim McIntyre was really out to get Mindi, this is what it sounds like to me. It just sounds way too convenient that this Jim McIntyre will be out to kill Mindi. Of course he does not. I haven't forgotten this. Nick does not have to prove anything. We know that, of course, but it's just trying to figure out why this one person, why this one third party would be after Mindi and not Nick it's kind of bizarre, because he was after Nick. So maybe if we heard testimony that Mindi's life was in danger, that's why we had to move away, maybe that would have been different. But we heard testimony that both of their lives were in danger, not just Mindi, not just his life, but Mindi's life. So, but all of these things just seems to be targeted at him. Every time that we hear a story from Mindi, etc., it's always Nick and the father Wayne. All of these things. So that's literally, that's literally all I'm gathering from all of this. So it's just insane to me. So the next witness up, and I thought this was the most likable witness, very, very direct. I think that she came across well to the jury, and she goes by the name of Cameron Nelson. She is Nick's longtime friend. They met in the Army. When she was part of the Navy, she was a nurse at the Navy, and she knew of both marriages to Heather, and she also who was Nick's first wife, and she also knows of the marriage to Mindi. She told him that he, Nicholas Kassotis, she testified that Nicholas had told her that Heather had been cheating on him when she had gotten when they were going through their separation, and she also testified to knowing Mindi, and witnessing their marriage. She gave testimony that Nick had retired from the Army in 2017. So we actually know exactly when he actually did retire. Not from Nicholas though. We know from Cameron. This is the funniest part of the testimony, which we're gonna get to. It was her testifying that Nicholas had told her about his interest in going into cyber law when he had retired from the Army.
An event called Jobs for JAGS, which is an annual event that's
In association with Microsoft.
He did. He shared that in his job search as he was leaving the Navy, he had gone to an event called Jobs for JAGS, which is an annual event that's hosted by the Judge Advocate Association. There he met a man named Peter who worked for Microsoft in some capacity, and that Peter had been interested in talking about cyber opportunities for Nick.
If this man, honestly, if this person was named Jim, that would have destroyed his theory. But the fact that his name was PR, in my opinion, kind of, I don't think it makes sense. I think it's just too convenient that he was now working on a cyber project somehow for Microsoft, and Jim was kind of overseeing it and advising him, and it goes from, but I don't know. In my opinion, this testimony just kind of shows that there was at least some kind of background into him going into the cybersecurity space or working for Microsoft. Whether that actually happened remained to be seen. But this is all Jim's words to other people. If he has any bit of credibility left, we will not know what to make of this testimony with this witness, because end of the day, the question I keep asking, and many people that I've seen cover this case or at least have commentary regarding this case, have been saying that how do these people fall for these stories? How do these people even let all this happen to them? And it's just weird to me.
And did you communicate with the defendant after he left the Navy?
Yes, I did.
Were you asked by Detective Frost with the Liberty County Sheriff's Office to indicate the different addresses and phone numbers that you had used to communicate with him?
Yes, sir.
I'm showing you now what's marked as State's Exhibit number 2.33.
So, she also gave testimony. That her and Nick had communicated at Signal at one point, at some point, and she also says that she never set her Signal to disappear messages, but Nick did. I don't know how Signal works. I don't know how she would know that information, but apparently she knows that Nick has set his messages to disappear on Signal. So if anyone here, whether you're watching back on replay or watching live now, if you know how Signal works, let me know how you would learn about somebody else setting their messages to disappearing. Maybe it came up in conversation. I just wouldn't know. But continuing on, she also testified to giving Nick financial help in 2018. I do remember this part firmly from his interview with law enforcement. He did actually say he was receiving help from Cameron, who was the friend. So he did say that. I do remember that testimony. Let me move on. She also testified that Heather. She also testified that Nick had told her that Heather was making threats to law enforcement, and that's why they were basically living their lives in danger. Like they had to move around because Heather had made threats to law enforcement and told her that that he reported break-ins. I want to go to that part of the testimony. Let's continue. Let me try and see. Hold up. Let me try and find it. Hold on.
To have messages disappear unless I intentionally delete them, so I had not deleted those.
At some point, did Nick ever discuss with you threats that he was receiving?
Here we go.
Did.
What did he say?
He explained first that there had been an issue with his USAA banking account, that someone had either hacked his account or had somehow, I think an employee of USAA or more than one employee had accessed his account. He also explained that there had been issues with his mail. And in addition to that, he explained that his first wife, Heather, had attempted to break into the house.
Did he say anything to you about threats made by Heather?
He indicated that Heather had made threats to him. I don't recall specifically, but that he had reported the threats from Heather and the break-in to the Alexandria Police Department and the issues with the banking and the mail to the FBI.
That's what he said.
Correct.
Well, did there come a time that he began experiencing financial problems?
He explained that he had been, yes.
And what did he tell you about his financial problems?
That related back to the USAA issues. He explained that he did not have access to any of the money that was in his account and was struggling to pay bills, common bills, and very basic level bills like vet bills, medical bills for Mindi, food, and was in distress because of that.
Did you and your husband...
So this was when she was offering him financial help. So this part does actually align with what he said in the interview. So there were truths to it. But like we went through that interview analysis, which you can go watch in depth from the day 5 recap. It was actually, we showed how he was caught in a lie in regards to Mindi being pregnant. He actually says that Mindi was pregnant despite saying in the 12th of May interview that he wasn't, that Mindi had a miscarriage and they were lying to people that she was still pregnant. So none of this is making sense. The lie makes sense. The lie because a lot of people heard this lie. So that does make sense. But him saying that Mindi was still pregnant because you just have to go watch it. But end of the day, I thought that would destroy any credibility. But the most important part is, even if he was lying to the police and all of that, I don't think that the police are doing a good job in really tying him to this murder and showing that he was acting with at least malice, at least the malice murder element. Maybe the jury might go for the felony murder, but I'll go through all of that in the end. I don't want to get ahead of myself. That sometimes happens. But yeah, let's continue on. She testified to providing Nick assistance to Nick, her dog, and Mindi to help basically help the family out. So Nick's dog, was like, she knows about all of that, and she also gave him a credit card which he charged up to the amount of $198K, made no payments. Doesn't make sense why you would charge that much. Like at this point you have to question. It does not make sense. I'll just leave it at that. It just does not make sense. You have to question, when did Jim enter the picture? Because the idea that we have in regards to Jim entering the picture was 2019 when Betsy gave the testimony regarding them having to move from Charlottesville, to Charlottesville, I believe. So she Yeah, so she gave testimony in regards to that move to Charlottesville, that they had basically lost contact at that point, moving from Virginia to Charlottesville. She lives in Virginia, and he says that they basically continued communications, and he basically said that he had told her. She basically said that he had told her that he was going to change his name to Stark due to his parents being called this, and says that he was adopted and learned who his real parents are. And I thought, yo, let's just go to this testimony and I'll give my 40 after
He
it.
and Mindy were preparing to leave Alexandria, and they came to our home and we had dinner together.
And after you last saw him, did you continue to stay in touch with him?
We did, mostly by text message.
I'm guessing you are referring to the money. I don't know how it's possible to run up a check of $198,000. So again, maybe was he frauding everyone, or is he just really, really bad with money? So at this point, we have to revisit, when did this Jim character, for it to be true, he has to enter the scene at 2018. But it seems untrue, because he's doing all of this, and you can't say that it's fraud. You can't say that he's being defrauded at this point, because there's a pattern here in his behavior. However, anyway, let me continue. I'll give my thoughts in the end.
At some point, was there any conversation by the defendant about changing his name?
Yes, sir, there was.
Tell the jury about that.
I don't recall the date. It was after they left Alexandria, and Nick shared that he had learned that his parents were not his biological parents. And so he was going to change his last name to Stark as a result of that discovery.
And did he tell you why he picked Stark?
My understanding was that that was the name of his biological parents.
What about his birth date?
He also changed his birthday. His original birthday, I believe, was in June, and he changed it to February 14th. He told me that was his actual birth date.
Did you ever have any conversation?
He even changed his birthday. Just it's wild. So if we call our mind back to the marriage certificate that apparently Jim had filled out, the parents' name from that marriage certificate that was presented through Samantha Kolesnik, the names on that was not. It just was not what is being presented here. The most important part to remember, I believe the mom's name was Elizabeth, and I believe the dad's name, I know he resided in England, but I can't recall what the dad's name is at this present moment. I'll try and find it, but nonetheless, let's just let's continue on with what I thought. That part of that testimony, what I basically think in regards to that is that the defense theory is being aided here in a little bit, because he is not forthcoming in regards to Jim. Based on her own testimony, there was no mention of this Jim character, or it is just he was gonna change his name in regards to he was just gonna change his name to this person because he learned about his new parents. Now it does align with these people claiming to be his dad coming into his life, and Jim entering his life to protect him from the father, etc. All these things, it does align with that. But if we're just gonna apply Occam's razor, I hate doing that, to be honest, but if we're just to apply that, it's kind of convenient that you would create, it would make sense that you'll create a whole story built around the fact that maybe it's not even real. Maybe it is a real fact that he was indeed adopted, but you would create a real story to keep away from it. Why he would do it does not make sense to me. But the prosecution does not have to prove motive. They don't have to show motive. They just have to show premeditation, and I think they done it. This part is just to discredit him completely. In my opinion, it's just to remove all elements of doubt. There, in my opinion, the prosecution are trying to show if this guy is lying to all these people, he must have a reason to lie about it because he's the one that killed Mindi. You've seen all the circumstantial evidence pointing it to him. That's what I'm guessing the play here is. So let's move on. Now, she gave testimony that was really, really damning. We are going to go to it, and it's testimony in regards to the text messages that she did save from Signal. So, if Nick has any messages from Signal to present, this would have been the right witness to do it, because if I was the defense attorney, I'll be like, did you receive this message? I don't know. If there was anything, this would have been the right moment to bring it in without presenting your case. But let's move on. She basically gave testimony when Mindi had told her that Nicholas had told her that Mindi was pregnant on Signal.
Your response and his response.
Yes, sir. I asked Nick, how is M doing? And Nick replied, not great. More scared than she lets on, I think. Trying to work through things to figure out what's going on and how to keep her.
Went too far ahead. My bad.
You may proceed.
All right, starting first with Exhibit 2.34. On what date was that sent?
June 8th, 2022.
And what did he tell you in that message?
He shared the news that Mindi was pregnant in this message.
Now turning to Exhibit 2.35. What's the date?
October 26, 2020.
So he shared a message that that Mindi was pregnant on June 8th, 2022. This is likely the same amount of time he was telling everyone else that Mindi was pregnant. This helps with the theory of the case. I know it goes in and out a lot, but it does actually help with the theory of the case in regards to this whole pregnancy. So at this point, we also know and heard from the testimony from the parents and all that they were moving around at this point and they were in Savannah at this point. So it's, yeah, it goes into showing that this was when the lies about the pregnancy likely started concretely.
22.
And if you would read that.
But we know from Nick's testimony that he said he started from June 2021, but I'm guessing that he probably meant June 2022. Let's continue.
To the jury, please.
That she was due in January 2023. That's when she was due, but she had a miscarriage because she was bleeding. So they had to keep up the lie.
Your response and his response.
Yes, sir. I asked Nick, how is M doing? And Nick replied, not great. More scared than she lets on, I think. Trying to work through things to figure out what's going on and how to keep her okay. And I replied, I'm so sorry. I wish I could help. Please keep me posted. I will definitely say tons of prayers, as always. And Nick replied, I definitely will.
Now turning your attention to Exhibit 2.36. What is the date on that?
October 29th, 2022.
And would you read that for the jury?
Nick indicated that Mindi was doing a little worse, heading to the hospital again in the morning unless this new medication starts to work. I replied, oh no, sending lots of prayers and hugs. Is the hospital okay? Tell the nurses to be good to her.
So Nick indicated on October 29th that Mindi was going to hospital. We heard from testimony from our friend, we just heard it, Angela Wynn, that Mindi had said that she was expecting to go home around October 2nd. Yeah, October 2nd. So but at this point, she was going to hospital. Weird, bizarre in my opinion. Let's continue on with it. You can see the deterioration of health from October 9th, I believe she said the first message was, to now October 29th.
Nick replied, it is. They've been very decent with things, explaining options and timelines. And I replied, I'm very glad to hear that.
I don't recall where you currently work right now.
So she gave testimony in regards to her belief that Nick would not have been qualified for TRICARE, which is something that the Navy would offer. This was in my opinion, this was the prosecution trying to undercut what the defense are trying to present well, at least undercuts Nick's story. Let me just go with that in regards to the interview that we saw, because he basically gave testimony that they had to rush her to the ER, the emergency hospitals around a military base. That's what they are gone due to his experience. She's basically giving testimony that he would not have been eligible for that kind of care because of when he had retired and being off the military. So I thought that testimony was essentially going to that. But let's go into more signal messages that was sent to her from Nicholas in regards to Mindi's situation.
Based on what I understood of Nick's status and that he had been discharged fully from the reserves and what he had shared with me, I do not believe that he would have been eligible.
Let me direct your attention to Exhibit 2.37. What is the date?
November 1st, 2022.
Would you read that for the jury?
I inquired, how is M doing?
This is a great. Before I continue. This is a very good point from trial channel, which is weird. Parents didn't say anything about her going to the doctor in October, did they? I'm getting so turned around. So the only person that I remember giving testimony in regards to her going to hospital was the father, who said that he had seen Mindi looking very sickly on the 24th of November. So that I believe Nick had basically said that on the 25th that she had basically that on that Thursday, which would be the 29th. I literally had to look this up on the calendar. In the interview that he gave, that on the Thursday, this was when they went to the hospital. So the Thursday was the 30th. So going by Nick's own words, if we're gonna take it as reliable in regards to its own, like how reliable, in regards to that police testimony, the Thursday in which they are taking her to hospital would have been the 1st of November. But if we are even gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, it would fall on the 30th of November, because end of the day, he did give testimony that they were trying to get all this done because they were moving to a property and they had to go check it out, because he knew that Mindi's father, Frank, was expecting to have hip surgery. This coincided with the 1st of December as well. So this testimony is really key to what I just explained. What she's about to explain here, what she's about to read here from the testimony, is really key to what I just explained.
1st, 2022.
Would you
So
read?
first of December 2022. Yeah. So it's weeks. Yes, it is weeks. But if we're to believe Nick's story that she was getting progressively sicker, we also heard testimony from the mother about him getting progressively sicker. So if we're to believe all of that, this does help his theory of the case somehow. I'm saying somehow because I already know the inconsistencies around the whole pregnancy but there seems to be no inconsistency regarding Mindi being sick. That is something to keep in mind.
That for the jury.
I inquired, how is M doing? Nick responded, I think a little better. We have an appointment tomorrow afternoon, so we're hopeful that we're getting the thumbs up for her to move on at it. Hopefully they see some improvement. I replied, a little better is, in fact, better. We will keep saying prayers. How are you? Nick replied, I'll be okay just as soon as I know everything is good with her. I can only repack everything so many times to identify new efficiencies.
Now look at State's Exhibit 2.38. What is the date?
December 1st, 2022.
Would you read that to the jury, please?
My bad. Okay, let me just get the right date on the record so that you know.
Not believe that he would have been eligible.
Let me direct your attention to Exhibit 2.37. What is the date?
November 1st, 2022.
Would you read?
So this is November 1st, 2022. And as she just read, this was when Mindi was essentially very sick.
That for the jury.
I inquired, how is M doing? Nick responded, I think a little better. We have an appointment tomorrow afternoon, so we're hopeful that we're getting the thumbs up for her to move on at it. Hopefully they see some improvement. I replied, a little better is, in fact, better. We will keep saying prayers. How are you? Nick replied, I'll be okay just as soon as I know everything is good with her. I can only repack everything so many times to identify new efficiencies.
Now look at State's Exhibit 2.38. What is the date?
December 1st, 2022.
Would you read that to the jury, please?
Nick texted, hi Cameron, I have no idea how to write this, and I'm so sorry to send it like this, but M passed away. Please keep that close hold. I would never ask you to keep it from Gray, but I don't know how to manage anything else, and I know a lot of people still need to be told. I don't have many answers yet about what happened. I've just never felt this bad. I replied, I'm so sorry to hear this. My heart breaks for you. How can we help?
Now direct your attention to Exhibit
This was
2.
the 1st of December 2023. This was around the same time he had told the parents as well that she had died. And he had messaged Cameron immediately that he had died. So the question now comes, why would he, out of the blue, out of the complete blue, just message Joseph West, who we heard testimony from earlier? Why would he do that? Why would he message Joseph West, who he hasn't communicated with, and just says Mindi is dead and she died of an infection? We don't know how, we haven't read him disclose how Mindi had died in that message to Cameron, but we know that she had basically died. Let's continue.
3-9. You see it?
Yes, sir.
What's the date?
December 5th, 2022.
Would you please read that to the jury?
Nick texted, they said it was a stroke. Nothing that could have been done. Her dad said it runs in the family. I didn't know that. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but now we know, I guess. And I replied, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What a shock, especially at such a young age. I think it helps only in that it stops your mind from some of the constant wondering. Nick replied, her blood pressure had been a constant concern, but not in this way. Like it worried me, but I didn't think this was the worst case.
Now take a look at...
So on the 5th of, this was when Nick decides, I don't know why he would even message her again, but why would he not tell her on the first occasion? But I'm guessing he probably, based on his story, based on his interview and his story, that he was waiting to find out all of this, and he's messaging Cameron, telling her that Mindi had died of this. It's kind of going with what he had presented in the interview, that he would reach out and told her all of these things. So he had basically told her that Mindi had died from stroke. Different from infection, different from heart problems. And Mindi had actually died at this point. So why are you're telling people that Mindi had died? You are saying he gave on the interview how Mindi had died to the law enforcement. So why would that not remain consistent based on...
Exhibit 2.40.
I don't want to call him a liar. I don't, but this is just... let me continue. I want to hear what he says. I want to go into his testimony with the most open mind in my, anyway, let's continue.
What is the date?
December 11th, 2022.
And would you read that to the jury?
I texted Nick, checking on you. How is today going? And Nick replied, so. I have M's ashes back. The process was awful, and I never got to see her after I was told, and I feel sick about it. I thought that it was going to be different, and maybe I should have asked more questions, but I just wasn't comprehending.
And finally, turn your attention to Exhibit 2.41.
So we heard testimony there that he had recovered Mindi's ashes on the 11th of that Mindi, he recovered Mindi's ashes, and we know from his testimony that he was basically alluding to having Mindi's ashes, that they cremated her, essentially, So it's just It's just when you're trying to put it all together, it just doesn't. It really, really does not make sense. It really does not.
What's the date?
Oh, let me. Damn, how do I get this back? There we. I think it's here.
So we're hopeful that we're getting the thumbs up for her to move on at it. Hopefully they see some improvement. I replied, nothing that could have been done. Her dad said it runs in the family. I didn't know that. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but now we know, I guess. And I replied, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What a shock, especially at such a young age. I think it helps only in that it stops your mind from some of the constant wondering. Nick replied, her blood pressure had been a constant concern, but not in this way. Like it worried me, but I didn't think this was the worst case.
Now take a look at Exhibit 2.40. What is the date?
December 11th, 2022.
Would you read that to the jury?
I texted Nick, checking on you, how is today going? And Nick replied, so-so. I have M's ashes back. The process was awful, and I never got to see her after I was told, and I feel sick about it. I thought that it was going to be different, and maybe I should have asked more questions, but I just wasn't comprehending.
And finally, turn your attention to Exhibit 2.41. What's the date?
March 28th,
Of what year?
2023.
Would you read that to the jury?
Nick texted, I heard a rumor you were trying to find me. My car quite literally exploded on me, and I've been in the hospital while I wait to see what happened. Sorry I've been so hard to reach. The other phone died in the fire. You should see the photos. Gray would probably find them interesting.
And then were there photos?
He mentions Gray, and I think that's a husband. So that's a husband. I think Gray was even mentioned on the interview as well. But again, it's just, I mean, outside the messages in regards to the death, etc. I think this testimony was probably the most concrete one to corroborate what was going on in the events on the 20th. He did go to hospital, all of those things. I do believe that his car, it could have been a mechanical fault, because when the pictures were shown, it didn't look to me like it was arson. It didn't. I don't know what arson looks like, so don't take everything for it. I don't know what it looks like, but it didn't look like it was a deliberate fire, because there are so many ways in which that happened, especially from it could be done from obvious spots, but to me it seems like this was like it seems like it wasn't done from an engine nor from the petrol part. It just seems to have been done as he had said from the passenger side that when it was told. But anyway, let's move on. This was the cross-examination from Doug Weinstein.
How often would you say they moved, as far as you know?
Often, I mean, it varied.
Every few days, every few months, every few weeks?
It could be all of the above.
You've retained a law firm to try to recover the money that you lent to Nick, correct?
We did.
And the law firm is Kaufman and Cannolis?
Kaufman and Knowles, yes.
Kaufman and Knowles. And the amount that you are seeking to recover from Nick Kassotis is $199,402.91. Does that sound about right?
About right.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
So that was the bulk of his testimony. And she was also looking for him to make those payments. In my opinion, I thought that this foundation was to show that Nick was really indigent. It was to aid that part of the testimony that he didn't really have money, and he was relying on what Jim was basically saying. So they were highlighting that part of the testimony. She did also give testimony regard to Nicholas having messaging her that he was packing and they were going to move about. So a bit of a win for the defense there, because they just highlighting the point that the defense had been making, that he didn't actually have all of this money, that the money came from essentially was coming from Jim. So let's move on to Heather Thomas, who was the ex-wife of Nick. They were married from 2009 to 2015. After meeting on eHarmony, she gave testimony in regards to having a dog named Rusty. And I believe there was another testimony in regards to having another dog as well. I forgot the name of that dog. Sheila. Oh, damn, I forgot the name of that dog. But they basically had two dogs. I don't know who gave testimony. No, it was definitely her. But anyway, they basically had two dogs, and Rusty was her dog. So this gives the impression that basically Nick had basically taken her dog in when they were divorced. So I don't know whether that was part of the settlement or anything like that. But I feel like if there are some dog lovers in the jury, that could leave a very bad impression of them about Nick. So she also gave testimony, and this is in regards to Eva Thomas. She gave testimony about her medical condition preventing her from having children with Nick. Well, making it difficult, not preventing her, making it difficult having children with Nick. She testified that it was mutual, that they had the divorce. So no, but she basically wanted the divorce, and she basically moved, and she was the one to basically move out when the separation was final. Jay Stolly says that's so much money to have loaned a friend. Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't give someone my credit card. I just wouldn't give someone a credit card. But she had a government job, and it seems like they were really successful part of their life. So it happens. Some people would get that large sum of money. I mean, Nick's choice to do what he did with the money is kind of where it's kind of sticking out to me. That why would he do that? Was it actually Nick doing these things? They didn't get the purchases into the record. I'm guessing it will be irrelevant. But if there were relevant purchases there to highlight a change of habit from Nick, maybe they're gonna introduce it during, I don't know. Maybe they're gonna introduce it during the defense case in chief, but I highly doubt it, because they've shown, the reason why I say that is because under Agent Sands' testimony, they shown all of the purchases that Nick was making when he was living in the Airbnb. So and he was making a hell lot of purchases, loads of which we are going to get to. So anyway, she gave testimony that divorce was granted on the 15th of October 2015, and she also testifies that she knew Mindi, but it was by happenstance, but she doesn't actually know her. She also gave testimony that he was actually ordered to pay $1.5 million as part of the divorce order. This, I believe, this was what Nick was making reference to in regards to his interview, because he did actually say, she did actually testify that he was the one to actually have been handling the whole divorce agreement. So the testimony that we heard was in 2018. This was when the divorce was basically final. And we also heard in his interview that, so they were having hearings from 2018 to 2019. The divorce was actually final on 2000. Near the tail end of 2018, around December, I believe, or November. So he said that Jim was instructing him to basically sort out that divorce. So we are getting, at least from if I'm trying to keep up with all of this, it seems to me that Jim entered his life mid 2018, around that time. So when he has all this divorce trouble and all these things, Jim was the one that was advising him to give his ex-wife, $1.5 million that apparently he didn't have because he was indigent. But he will get into it to even pay her off, because he has to basically work on this contract to get the money. So this is the genesis of Jim, essentially. it sounds like mental illness, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. I don't want to. It just doesn't. Guys, like, am I going crazy by trying? Like, it just anyway. Young black economist in the chat. Hey, getting that prenup can't be having no ex-spouse taking that much. One point. The funny part is he negotiated it. He agreed to it. Based on her testimony, you know what? Let's just let her speak. I'm saying, let me just give you the testimony that she basically said.
What were his obligations under the divorce?
He was required to pay off the personal loan or refinance it if he couldn't pay it off.
So this was $90K, the personal loan, with interest $90K, and $10K in lawyer fees. And the 1.5 million was its own judgment. So
His own name.
yeah.
He was required to refinance or pay off the truck that he was driving. And he was required to either refinance or sell the property on Adrian Drive.
And at some point, was he ordered to pay you $1.5 million?
Yes.
Did he?
No.
How long after your divorce was it before he and Mindy got married, roughly?
About a year, almost to the day.
And after your divorce from him, did you continue to correspond with him?
Yes, of course. We were very friendly. It was a very amicable divorce.
And how would you communicate with him after the divorce?
Text. He came to visit with the dogs. We had 2 dogs at the time, Stitch and Rusty. Email. Just whatever was convenient.
Do you know how he was employed during the time he was married to Mindy?
I was told from him that he worked for the Department of the Navy.
For how long?
I don't know.
Did he ever express interest in starting a cybersecurity business?
He mentioned cybersecurity as an area that he was interested, yes.
It helps him because that's how he would meet Jim.
Between 2015 and 2019, did the defendant cooperate with the divorce obligations?
No,
Did that cause any kind of hardship to you?
of course.
Like what?
It put me through a lot of emotional stress, but importantly, it put me through a lot of scrutiny for my own employment.
So there was a hearing that they had on the 4th of January that he wasn't complying with, and the reason is gonna shock you. The reason is going to be, let's hear it.
And did he tell the court he was having difficulty accessing that money?
Yes,
move on.
What did he,
Let me that's too far ahead.
did you go to that January 4th hearing?
yes, I did.
What happened at that hearing?
The judge was very upset after he heard Nick testify under oath that he not only had the money, he had more than enough of the money, and that he just was refusing to pay it. So the judge was not very kind.
He admitted having how much money?
$32 million.
And did he tell the court he was having difficulty accessing that money?
Yes.
What did he tell the court?
He told the court that his wife, his current wife, Mindi, was holding his funds and that he thought that she had a claim to it because it was earned during his marriage with her, and that he was pursuing other actions with her. But the judge was like, well, I can't bring her into court, but you're here. So you need to put a move on it. And I want this done. I want to see movement in a week. Otherwise your liberty is at stake.
Now, before that hearing, was there another similar hearing that occurred?
Yes.
What happened at that similar hearing?
There was a case right before ours where very similar circumstances, though not to the degree or the amount owed by any means, was playing out, and we were both in the courtroom. And that ended where the spouse that owed the money left in handcuffs. And so Nick asked to meet with my attorney and I in the mediation room after we continued, and that's when the additional $90,000 and the $10,000 came from.
So I thought this was damning for Nick, but at the same time, this has to be, if you're going under oath to make that testimony, knowing how much is at stake, you have to be operating under the advisement of somebody else. I'm giving him, I know I'm giving him the longest rope. We have already been through his inconsistent statement. I have highlighted it. I don't want to, but like I said, all I do here is cover trials objectively, and I try to weigh both sides every single time. I have to assume everything is truth. the worst. This is the worst position. I hate being in this position because I'm having to overlook it quite a bit. But going with the defense theory of the case, this does match. It does help him a little bit, because that is something that Jim. That is something that he would be advised to go into court to say, yeah, just say all of this. The reason why I believe that is the cross-examination. We are going to get to it, but there was testimony that she gave in regards to the name Stark, reminding her, of Game of Thrones. Apparently, her and Nick used to watch that all the time. So this is really pointless, but but because Nick has lied so many times, the prosecution is just trying to throw it out there that he could have got the name from just a simple TV show and just ran with it, like he got this Jim McIntyre person. So it would have been funny if she highlighted that they used to watch Fight Club. That would have been funny. Maybe Tyler Durden would have made an appearance. But she also gave testimony that she actually got pregnant with her new husband, and Nick was very upset about that. It made her uncomfortable. I didn't see the value of the testimony other than just making Nick basically look like he was, he was bothered by her, which was the motive, of putting her through all of this, that he found out about the pregnancy. Lexi the Law Nerd, thank you so much for tuning in. Cat on Justice Served. Oh wow. Yeah, that is some. I will have to leave a link for. I will have to leave a link for that, because she was on that. Make sure that you go in and go and watch that. I will leave a link in the chat and the description for you guys to go and do that. But yeah, thanks so much for joining. Ruth Ann, welcome in. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you ever so much. So let's go into that all important cross-examination. And this is when she testified, and I honestly saw a lot of points here for the defense, and we're gonna go through it all. Before we go into this cross-examination, make sure that you hit that like button if you haven't already. If you're watching back on replay, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments how you are finding this, how you're feeling, and what are your thoughts on this case so far. Let me know in the chat and in the comments. Let's continue.
You, correct?
Yeah.
He accused you of infidelity.
Yes.
And do you still maintain that you did not commit infidelity?
Correct. I met my husband well after we had already separated. I had not started dating my husband. Yes.
Final. Your divorce from Nick Kassotis was final on October 15th, 2015, correct?
That's correct.
When did you get married to your husband, to Anthony Thomas?
Yeah. October 16th.
The very next day?
Yes.
Nick raised the issue of infidelity with you, correct?
Yeah.
He accused you of infidelity.
Yes.
And do you still maintain that you did not commit infidelity?
Correct. I met my husband well after we had already separated. I had not started dating my husband until July. And while that does seem fast, it is possible to find the love of your life.
Honestly, Nick and her should have stayed together. I don't know what happened in that relationship, but they are made for each other. How are they able to just move on? How are they able to just move on? Exactly. How are they able to move on this quickly? We have Nicholas. I called him Jim anyway. We have Nicholas moving on to his new boo in literally days. Days. They were made for each other. Honestly, I don't know why they broke up in the first place. And get this 1.5 million judgment on each other. They were made for each other.
You say that Nick failed to follow the obligations in your initial divorce decree, correct?
Correct.
And that he was supposed to pay off some type of loan, either refinance it, but pay it off so you're off the loan, correct?
Correct, yeah. Just remove my name, however he wanted to do that.
He was supposed to pay off the truck, And he was supposed to refinance or sell I guess the marital home that y'all had.
That's right.
And he did not do those things, correct?
That's right.
And you pursued him to do those things.
Absolutely.
And following that, there was a consent order, correct?
That's right.
And that consent order was from, I guess, November 28th, 2018. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And in that consent order, can you tell me this? How did you reach the consent order? How did you reach the numbers in the consent order? How did you come up with the figures? How did you guys come up with the figures in
We
the
came up
consent?
with the figures. We had an addendum made that we mutually agreed to, and we had notarized, and we had added. So it was then part of the divorce decree.
And when you say we, that's you and Nick and I guess whatever attorneys were involved. Is that correct?
He never had an attorney, but yes, I had an attorney.
Okay. And so that $1.5 million that he had agreed to pay you, he agreed to that. He agreed to the $1.5 million in the course of the negotiation, correct?
Correct.
And had you seen any evidence that Nick had $1.5 million?
No.
Have you seen, or at the time, or at any time, did you see any evidence that Nick Kassotis had the $32 million that he said he had?
When he testified under oath.
I
Insane.
understand that. Did you see any, did you see any documentation of the $32 million?
No.
Bank statements
Oh, yes.
that showed $32 million?
They were fake, but yes.
And when you followed up on that, do you remember the bank?
Bank of America?
Okay, did you do anything with Bank of America to see if there was $32 million in there?
I tried filing the judgment in every single banking institution in the Virginia area, sir.
And were you successful at getting the $1.5 million from any of those banks?
No.
What did they say about the $32 million when you presented Bank of America with those statements?
They've never heard of them.
So, if you are one, if there is ever an example, about a cross-examination to establish reasonable doubt, I think this is the best one, because you have this Jim character that we heard on the interview. That we heard on the interview on the 26th, I believe, on the 26th when they were interrogating him, and I remember even making this communication. I even making this critique of him, that he was now pulling into the divorce agreement that they had to kind of make up a story to say that Jim was doing it. But now, based on this, he was presenting documents from official banks, etc., into the court to basically say that, yeah, essentially he does have the money, but she went looking and cross-checking, and there was no proof of these funds. So who is he getting the documents from? I do think that the next testimony, they did really well to essentially give the idea that he is able to fake documents. So we are gonna get to that in a quick primer, but I do think that this cross-examination was so good, in my opinion, in at least giving that doubt, because like, why would he confidently say under oath, I have 32 million? We already heard from Mindi saying that they were expecting 850K. So where did the 32 million come from? After Mindi had told Betsy that they were, so it's just then when they settled on 1.5 million, it's now like, well, F you, I don't have it. It doesn't make sense. Young Black Economy says he was bitter, which I can understand. She's lying on the stand about cheating. He probably lied about having 32 million to just take a jab at her and assume the judge would just agree she gets nothing. So the fact that he has even introduced the documents into court, if this case ends with a guilty verdict, the court might even come against him for fraud. He might be federally, he might get a federal, if this case comes back guilty, he might get a federal claim against him that he was committing fraud in that court to get a divorce. I don't know. I don't know if that will hold up, but I do see something being actually, I do see something maybe happening at the aftermath of this case.
You say that both you and your husband thought that Nick Kassotis was uncomfortable when he saw that you were pregnant. Does it surprise you that an ex-husband is uncomfortable when he sees his ex-wife pregnant?
It depends. If you have a good relationship before then, and you already knew about it, then seeing it probably wouldn't have made a big difference.
He didn't fire
The
about
GBI
it.
interviewed you prior to today, correct?
I love that cross-examination because he didn't fire her about it. We already know that she was unable to get pregnant. So he just said, would that upset somebody? He's like, she's like, yeah, it depends. Because he, anyway, moving on.
Do you recall telling the GBI that Heather was living with you guys?
I'm Heather.
I'm sorry, I apologize, Mindi.
Yes, and I corrected them immediately because that's not true.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Anything else, Counsel? Yes. Thank
No,
you.
that was the bulk of her testimony. We're not gonna go through all of Tracy Sand's testimony. He just basically went through all the evidence into court. I saw the trial strategy. Just relay all the evidence back to the jury so that they can see that this is not someone who was living in fear, but essentially someone who was literally, based on the evidence, he was trying to cover his tracks after killing Mindi for whatever reason. He was obviously running from his ex-wife based on the judgment. So that was, but I do think they did present records of him falsifying a Georgia license. Wild. A license that was issued in the state of Georgia under the name of Nicholas Kassotis on the 26th of 2022. What I basically had an alteration on the license, so this points to a forgery. So how did he get that is the question, but he is now, we get the impression that Nicholas has the ability to forge documents. We also get the impression, we also see name changes in Delaware on the 13th of January 2023. This is a very important testimony. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Oh, let me damn it. All right. Here you go.
Now, you in December 1st, the driver's license for Georgia was July of 2022, correct?
That's correct.
After December 1st of 2022, can you tell the jury where was the first place the driver's license got changed?
There's a state of Delaware driving record.
Okay.
The issue date is 1/13 of 2023.
And that issue date for 1/13/2023, what name did Mr. Kissotis utilize?
Nicholas James Kassotis.
That was on January 13th of 2023?
That's correct. But,
So he changed his name in Delaware to Nicholas James Kassotis on January 13, 2023, and he also changed his name in Missouri, St. Louis, on the 4th of January 2023. He cited reasons of domestic violence for that name change. Really bizarre, but again, it just aids his case, in my opinion, because that is something that an FBI agent would tell you to go and change your name under, because it'll be easier to get, and it will add to your the more I think about it, the more I see what the prosecution are trying to paint here, because he is, and I wouldn't be surprised if they bring it up in their closing arguments to basically say he is now starting to cover his tracks after Mindi had died, because he told everyone that Mindi had died on the 1st of December. He is now planning a new life. He has gone to change his name in the state of St. Louis, citing domestic violence, and he was a resident of St. Louis, so he was trying to have these spots so that he can move. That's what I'm guessing. That is going to be the closing statements, that the closing argument, sorry, that essentially he was doing all of this to cover his tracks. That's what I'm guessing. But why would he change his name in Delaware to Nicholas Kassotis? That just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you need to do that in another state and have these two names? To me, it does help the defense theory a little bit in showing that he cannot be doing all of this. Somebody else must have been setting him up. Again, I don't know, but they also brought in testimony in regards to the book that he sold to Sony. We'll just go quickly to that, and then we'll close off on the cross-examination that was given to the agent.
Yes, ma'am.
What was that?
It was around $300,000 in June.
At this time, I'm going to seek to.
So they never gave a year for this deposit. I assumed June 2022 based on the records that they were getting at the time, that they were getting all these records at the time of 2022, but they never actually gave the date for that particular deposit.
Mark 1.118 and show it to the witness. I'm showing it to counsel.
Yes, ma'am.
What are those, sir?
This is the business records, through the pages. From Sony Pictures Entertainment Incorporated.
Are those the business records with regards to Sony, you said?
That's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, I would seek to tender those records as business records notice has been served on those for 1.118.
No objection, Your Honor. They are admitted without objection.
Thank you. Can you tell the jury, what did you determine with respect to that $300,000 transaction?
It was in regard to a sale of a short story.
Who sold the short story?
Nicholas Stark, as Nick Morfox, which we determined to be Mr. Nicholas Kassotis.
Okay. And who did he sell the story to?
Sony.
And for
So his name for this? Sorry, go
how
on.
much?
$300,000.
Was that his share of the proceeds of the transaction?
That's correct.
So he sold the books under the name of Nicholas Morfor. To be honest, I don't care about this name because that happens all the time in the writing world. You don't have to go by your true name. You can always have a different identity. But because of the fact that, he's changed his name so many times, they might actually believe that he was basically changing his names numerous times to just keep up because of the fact that he's a writer, So I believe that this testimony might be aiding to that idea. And it kind of makes sense why they were asking the first wife in regards to the Game of Thrones that they're watching, that he probably got the name from there, being a fan of not, maybe being a big fan of the stocks, but anyway, moving on. She finally got around to asking the year. It was 2022. I appreciate that. So it was definitely 2022. So thanks for that, Lexi the Law Nerd. You heard it from her. I appreciate that. So he gave the title of the book, which was "My Mother-in-Law Was Killing Me." He also testified that he also gave testimony about looking for Jim McIntyre, and there was no Jim McIntyre. There was actually a lot of Jim McIntyres, but they narrowed it down to a Jim McIntyre that apparently was in the same hospital where Nick was, and and he basically said that there was no records of seeing Mindi or Jim or anything like that at the hospital. So that was the extent in regards to Jim McIntyre. Nothing really much, but let's get to that cross-examination because it was wow. It was wow, and he hit on a lot of the points that I felt was really bad, that I was highlighting on day 5 when I was looking through the police interviews about not taking the facts that they were presenting to that they were presenting to Nicholas, that I wasn't going to take their facts seriously. So this is what he focused on. This is what Doug Weinstein focused on. Hold on. So let me go to it.
That logging truck could identify him down that road. He had been spotted.
Yes, that's what appeared on the camera, yes.
What about that he had left DNA at the scene where Mindi's body was located?
Oh wait, sorry. Let's start again. Here we go.
Could I see that last set of exhibits?
Could you imagine me going in there? Yep, I did it all. Yeah. No, but no, not even. Yep, I did it all. I would deny everything. On cross-examination. There is Doug. He's like, oh, but we have this evidence against you. We have all this evidence against you, and when it got time to reveal it all, I'll be like, you want the truth? You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Let's move on.
Good afternoon, Agent Sands.
Good afternoon.
I know that we're at the end of a long day. So, let me ask you a question regarding name
My
change.
heart was broken at this point. It was really broken. On the last day, we didn't hear the famous words, "Hi, I go by the name of Doug Weinstein. I'm here representing my client, Nick Kassotis, in this case." I was really hoping for that. I was waiting for that, and he just didn't say it. I was heartbroken at that point.
Do you know how long it takes a name change to filter through the Social Security system?
I do not.
Let me ask you about the interview that you conducted with Mr. Kissotis. You conducted 2 interviews with him, correct?
That's correct.
And you were there for both of those interviews, except for maybe the last portion of the second interview, correct?
That's correct.
Where did the first interview take place?
The first interview was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
And do you know what conditions Mr. Kassotis was kept in prior to being interviewed?
I do not.
Are you aware that there were mice in his cell?
Objection, Your Honor. May we
That's-
approach?
Yeah, they're gonna.
At the interview time, because he had just arrived when the interview was conducted.
So prior to the interview being conducted, he had just been flown down here from up there, correct?
That's correct. He was flown into Savannah and then actually driven to the Liberty County Sheriff's Office and was interviewed almost immediately.
He was not given an opportunity to rest or recover, correct?
He was not.
Let me ask you some more questions about those interviews. As a law enforcement officer, are you permitted by law to lie to suspects during the course of an interrogation?
Objection, Your Honor. This asks for the witness to make a legal conclusion.
Well, let me rephrase it then. In the course of your training, are you trained that at times you can lie to a suspect during an interrogation?
Yes.
And
That's correct.
that is
And they use the word lie, but yeah. But you can-
mislead?
That's correct.
Okay, let's say mislead then.
That's correct.
I'll stick to that language.
I think that's even worse. Misleading somebody. That means that they were trying to do all this. They were lucky trying to do all this so that they can get him on video, double speaking basically. So when he points this out, is trying to, from my understanding, he's trying to cast doubt on what Nick was trying to say in that interview, and he was basically working with bad facts. Like they were presenting him with bad facts. That's why his memory was distorted. I'm guessing that's the impression that is trying to be presented here by Doug.
And when I say you, I'm going to be referring to, in the course of the interrogation, to both you and Investigator Frost.
Okay.
You recall telling my client, Mr. Kissotis, that there'd been a logging truck in front of him going down that road, correct?
Yes, I did.
And there was going to be an identification based on that logging truck. That logging truck could identify him down that road. He had been spotted.
Yes, that's what appeared on the camera, yes.
What about that he had left DNA at the scene where Mindi's body was located?
I don't recall that specific wording.
Okay. Tell me if this sounds correct or incorrect. And this is you specifically,
Okay.
Agent Sands. You said, quote, the 45 minutes that you spent there at one location with the tubs and then Investigator Frost interjected, and the knife, and then you said your DNA. Do you recall that?
Oh, yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And another portion of the interview, tell me if you recall this. You said your elaborate story of on the run all this time, and all the periods of stuff and the web of lies, why is it so different than what happened with her? And the records show, the evidence shows, the DNA shows. Why is all that? Is you're being set up? Is that what you're saying? And he responded, I don't know, sir. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
What's the value of misleading a suspect during an interrogation?
That's what I said. That's what I said on day 5. The fact that they offered, the fact that there was DNA, it's gonna, like, it just looks like it just leaves them looking like with egg on their face, because they are presenting to the jury right now that they could not find DNA on the scene, that they could not find DNA on the tote or anything like that. They could only recover blood on the futon that belonged to Mindi, but there's no conclusion into how that blood got there. So when you look at all of those things, this cross-examination is really, really good to show, at least in my opinion, to show that if they really believe that they had a strong case, they would have kept a truthful set of facts rather than try to lie to mislead him to make something, or to have inconsistencies where there wasn't one before. Because I do think that you can argue away a large portion of the evidence actually in support of what he was telling the police the first time around. But like I said, like, you know, they confused him to a point that he believed that Mindi was pregnant because he was expecting a baby in January, and they had to tell him no, that was medically impossible.
You can call that misleading because there was information in there, but just to see reactions a lot of times.
And that's often beneficial for you, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Does misleading in general oftentimes lead to a suspect eventually confessing
I wouldn't say that.
as part of the entire interrogation?
No, I would not say that.
Okay. Mr. Kissotis never confessed during the interrogations, correct?
No, sir.
Do you recall telling Mr. Kissotis that you had evidence of his car starting and stopping at the various scenes where Mrs. Kassotis' body was found?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you also told him that you would get his Proton emails and you'd be able to remove encryption and find out what's on those emails, correct?
No, sir, I didn't say remove encryption.
Be able to investigate and see what are in those emails.
Yeah, we had those emails at that time.
Okay. And were you able to read those emails?
As far as read them, yes, sir.
Okay. Let me ask you some more about the testing that was performed on various pieces of evidence.
Okay.
Now, you are the agent that's in charge of this investigation, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So sometimes, Mike, you ask for certain evidence to be tested, and other times agents working under you would request evidence to be tested?
I would say in this case specifically, I'd rather talk about this specific case than
Yes.
other times.
Yeah, let's talk about this case.
In this specific case, I made certain requests. Our crime scene specialist made certain requests. My supervisor made requests, as well as the district attorney's office made requests.
Okay.
So there's times of different requests at different times. So I don't want to get into what we normally procedure or different things, but in this specific case, yes, I made requests.
Okay. Evidence of blood was found on the floor of the home that the couple resided in Savannah, correct, where the Kissotis resided?
That's correct.
No test was ever ordered for the blood on that floor, correct?
When you say ordered,
Did you request any DNA analysis of the blood on that floor?
specific to that floor, I did not.
Okay. Are you aware of anyone, and I'm going to call them your team because you're in charge, are you aware of anyone on your team requesting DNA analysis of the blood on that floor?
That question was answered by the actual tester, but I would be willing to answer that as well. But yes, it was.
What about the DNA on the wall?
Yes, it was.
I'm sorry, the blood on the wall.
Yes.
And what was the result of what you found on the wall?
It was not tested. The bottom, you're talking about the floor of the wall.
Let's talk about the wall.
There was not enough for the wall.
What about on the floor?
There was testing as far as the crime scene specialist that collected it to show it was blood, but there was no testing following up on it.
Do you recall that, you sat here, you heard all the testimony. I know you know this case inside and out.
I remember, but
Do you recall that there were, the blood that was found on the futon It contained DNA that was identified as Mindi Kassotis' DNA, correct?
That's correct.
And there was another individual's DNA, correct?
There was a portion of another DNA is what I remember from the testimony, a mixture.
And you collected DNA from my client, correct?
I did.
Did you ever compare the DNA from my client to the other, did you ever have compared the DNA from my client to the DNA that was on the futon?
I did not.
On Mindy's body, there was a hair found, do you recall?
I do not.
Okay. What about the wipes at the scene? There was a lot of wipes at the scene, right?
Yes, I do recall the wipes.
Okay. Did you have any DNA testing performed on the wipes?
Once again, those were submitted by our crime scene specialist and processed through the lab, but I understand they were not tested.
And you never requested that they be tested, correct?
Yes, I requested they all be tested.
Oh, you requested they all be tested?
I requested everything tested, yes.
But those wipes were not tested?
Those wipes were not tested.
Okay. The cigarette pack
Yes, sir.
that's found on that hunting road there, what testing did you perform on that cigarette, or have performed on that cigarette pack?
Once again, I don't do the testing, nor did I collect that evidence. I recall that it was collected and preserved, and was actually transported to the lab for testing, but there were no tests conducted.
Why not?
You mentioned, I believe, in your direct today, that fingernail clippings were taken from Mindi Kassotis, correct?
That's correct.
And why, again, do you collect those fingernail clippings?
If there was some physical scraping of DNA to be able to determine.
Do you know if there were any tests ever performed on those fingernail clippings for DNA?
That would be a question for the medical examiner. I don't recall right off the top of my head whether they did or not.
Have you seen any results of testing from her fingernail clippings?
I have not.
So he tried to go around it, and I think this is. I honestly think maybe this is why. I mean, to be honest, I've seen cases where the lead investigator goes in the end, but we never heard testimony from the medical examiner in regards to the fingernails that was collected from Mindi, because we heard testimony that fingernails. I think it was on the direct examination in regards to the direct examination of Agent Sands in regards to the importance of collecting the fingernails, because it is the most likely location of DNA evidence. But we haven't heard any testimony. There was not even a question to Mr. Keith Lamar, the medical examiner in this case, regarding the fingernails. So how do you, like, because if he gave testimony regarding the fingernails and there will be a report of it, but there was none. He just testified to not seeing it. Why would you not have the fingernails? Like, it would, if there was a struggle, there would definitely be scraping. Like, Nicholas, if he did this, cannot be that careful to have collected all the fingernails and then dispersed them, because the medical examiner would have known. It would come up that it was freshly cut. He would see it. So it's likely, at least based on this cross-examination, it's likely that he could have been set up. At least that's the idea that is being presented here. Let's continue.
Do you think anyone knows this case better than you?
There's a lot of people. I know a lot about it, but I probably forgot more than some people know.
Okay. One of the, I call them tubs. One of the tubs found at the scene was a Husky tub, correct?
That's correct.
Did you do any searching of stores in the Savannah area that sold that same Husky tub?
I did not.
The other tub, I believe, is a Stairlight brand tub, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you do any searching for sales of Stairlight tubs in the Savannah area?
Are you asking specific me or the team?
Let's say the team.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
So
One of the things that you
So he was looking for the weapon and all those things to buy, but you wouldn't search for the tubs? Bizarre. Why would you not search for Nick buying these tubs if he's on record? As we have heard him testify, he's on record saying, on messages to people saying that he had bought tubs to move around. He had done all these things to move around. That's weird to me.
heard in the interview with my client is that he had a mosquito issue in that home in Savannah, correct?
I did.
And that he had cut out some screen to try to stop the mosquitoes from coming into the house, correct?
He told me that, yes.
Yeah. And were you there when that house in Savannah was searched?
I wasn't there initially. I arrived later. I was doing some interviews and actually came over and assisted in the blacking out of the house. So I was there, yes, sir.
Remind me again when that house was searched.
It would have been in May, early May of 2023.
Before or after the interview with Mr. Kissotis?
That would have been before.
And when Mr. Kissotis had told you during the interview that he had cut some screen because of mosquito issues, did you go back to the house again to see if that screen was present?
I did not.
Did you find any evidence?
Again, they were doing all this based on what Nick was telling them, like, you know, the Home Depot or all of these things based on what Nick was telling them. They went to these locations to find them. But yet he told them to, and they didn't bother looking? Okay.
That
Could be exculpatory.
there was life insurance on Mindi Kassotis?
I did not.
Why would you not look at that?
Let's talk about the pumping station and the camera at the pumping station.
Okay.
Were you the one that went to look at the DVR at the pumping station?
Yes, sir. I actually was there. It was retrieved off the wall and handed to me.
Okay. The DVR is the digital video recorder, correct?
That's correct.
That stores the images that are captured by the camera at the pumping station, correct?
That's correct.
The camera at the pumping station captures images based on motion, right?
There are multiple cameras there, and I know that some were motion activated and some were fixed.
The camera from which we saw video and still photos today, was that a motion activated camera?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. And you showed today clips of a Ford Explorer similar to my client's Ford Explorer captured by that camera, correct?
That's correct.
That camera captured other images as well during that, let's say that 27th through 29th period, correct?
Yes, sir, it did.
Do you know how many other images were captured of vehicles?
I do not.
Did you look at all those images that were captured of vehicles?
I would not say all. I looked at a lot of those images, yes, sir, for hours.
For hours?
Yes.
I mean, you can't give me more than 100 since it took you hours?
As far as vehicles and defining vehicles, there was a lot of motion activation that was just either trees moving, times of rain, wildlife, different things, and in addition, vehicles like log trucks and other things that came through. But as far as the number of vehicles, I can't sit here and tell you a number of vehicles.
But there were a number of vehicles that passed and activated that motion camera, correct?
Oh, yes, it's the active road, yes, sir.
And not all of them were logging vehicles, correct?
That's correct.
And what did you do about the images of those other vehicles? Did you take any action to try to find owners of those vehicles, to try to track those vehicles down on other cameras?
No, sir, I did not.
If there was more than one Ford Explorer, it destroys their case. So it goes with what the defense third-party corporate theory, this is it playing out, that they're trying to present, that there could have been somebody else doing it, and just because there was a Ford Explorer that they could not even identify and tie to Nicholas, and just because there was a cell activity in regards to his car, they didn't have, and this is the most important part about this cross-examination, they didn't have Nicholas' camera or the CCTV where he was at the pump station apparently washing his car. Why would you not present that to the jury, at least for the fullness of the picture? That wasn't presented, but the CCTV going in and out of the reservation was presented. But that's what I'm seeing here. Like, you would have presented it to really tie it to Nick, to say, yeah, this was really him, because he did go and wash his car at this point. But we don't have that camera in evidence when he just admitted that there were cameras at the station. Why would you not get that into evidence?
Back to the interrogation briefly. My client, Mr. Kissotis, told you about the financial issues, vandalism, issues with their accounts back when they lived in Virginia in 2018, correct?
That's correct.
And he told you that he made an FBI report on that, correct?
He did.
Did you ever find an FBI report on that?
No, we reached out and with the analyst, with our analyst, as well as the FBI analyst, and the report was located.
So if somebody would have told my client that he was with the FBI and he took a report, that couldn't be accurate, correct? The FBI has no record of anything.
There's no record of a report.
Okay. You said that you checked the Medicaid rolls for Mindi Kassotis.
That's correct.
Which Medicaid rolls did you check? What states?
Georgia.
Did you check Virginia?
We did not.
South Carolina?
We did not.
During the interview, Mr. Kissotis told you that he had, I think, gone to Target and picked up a security camera to put into his home in Savannah, right?
Yes, sir, he did.
And he did that after he told you that Wayne, his father Wayne, had come to the house.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Did you do any investigation to try to secure that camera?
As far as me or the team specifically?
The team specifically?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the result of that?
We looked for the camera in the area of there, and the records were attempted to be located.
You looked for the camera, when you say in the area?
In the house, in the residence,
in the
it's still
Airbnb.
there. It was searched for in Pennsylvania, and it was searched, the records were searched for at Target.
When you say the records, let's try to break it up because I just want to be clear.
Okay.
You searched for a physical security camera at the Airbnb in Savannah,
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
And you did not find one.
That's correct.
When was the search conducted?
And that search was conducted prior to his arrest,
Approximately when?
which the date would have been
Give me the month and the year, please.
the month, that would have been May of 2023,
And when did Mr. Kissotis vacate the Airbnb?
December of 22.
Okay, so 6 months later, the camera wasn't there, correct?
That's correct.
If you want to frame somebody, have people. Well, at least that's the idea that I'm getting. That if you want to frame somebody, put them in a remote location, make it seem like there was cameras in the place, and then when you leave, you pack it all up, and then you roll it into a bag, and then you carry the bag and run away, and there's no more location. That's what I'm getting here, but essentially, like, to me, that's just this is weird that there is no camera at the Airbnb, but there was camera.
Jim McIntyre.
Before.
You say that your team conducted a search for Jim McIntyre,
Yes, that's correct.
and you found a number of Jim McIntyres across the country.
That's correct.
The one you chose to interview, if I heard you correctly, you interviewed a Savannah Jim McIntyre.
Yes, may I explain why?
Go ahead.
Because he appeared in the area at St. Joseph's Hospital when the defendant walked out, so he would have had to have been close by in the area, so that's why we picked him.
He appeared in, explain that again, I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand.
According to Mr. Kissotis during the interview, is that Jim just appeared as he ran out of the house and he went to the parking lot at St. Joseph's Hospital where security was. Well, in order for him to appear there out of nowhere just to help, he would have had to have been in the Savannah area.
Oh, so can you only be in the Savannah area if you reside in Savannah?
Well, and he told me the low country area as well.
But again, can you only, I mean, I'm in Savannah right now, but I'm not a resident of Savannah.
He was at that time, yes.
I'm sorry?
He was saying he was there at that time.
He was there at that time?
That's correct.
But does that mean he's a resident of Savannah?
No,
Okay. He could have been at a hotel,
that's correct.
motel,
Yeah.
Airbnb?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said that you also, I think you also said, and correct me if I heard this wrong, you visited that Jim McIntyre because he happened to be located near the law firm where Betsy Mebane works, correct?
That's correct. It's downtown Savannah.
Okay. But the less convenient Jim McIntyres scattered about the country, you didn't try to visit any of those, correct?
That's correct.
And I'm sorry that this is kind of random, but baby clothing purchases that you testified to, you checked his bank statements, credit cards for baby clothing purchases, right?
That's correct.
And you didn't see any there?
No,
Did you check his Amazon account?
we did not.
I mean, to be quite fair, if you make a purchase, to be quite fair, I want to play devil's advocate, so I'll present to one side for it. This doesn't look bad on the prosecution because end of the day, if you make a purchase on Amazon, it would reflect on your credit card. At the same time, if he made a purchase on Amazon on a different card that they don't have, it helps the defense, because if you did check, you may have seen that he may have multiple bank accounts. You are presenting the idea that he changed his name in different states. So if you had checked the Amazon account, there is a likelihood that you may have found multiple accounts where you can trace him further and tie him to the scene, or tie him, or most importantly, be able to find more purchases that you cannot find at Home Depot. You may have found a deer kit being purchased there. All of these things that you did not, all of these things. But we are running a little bit longer than usual, but because the case is winding down and we are likely may reach a conclusion on day 7, I thought have this be a bit extended so that I can bring in every evidence that has been brought in a neat bow. But anyway, let's finish off with this cross-examination. Make sure that you hit the like button. We are still continuing with the witness testimony here, and in my opinion, this was a really, really surgical cross, and I will explain why after it's done.
Did you attempt to do that, subpoena Amazon?
I did not, but that would be a question for Investigator Frost. I don't recall anybody doing that.
You mentioned that when you went looking for houses that matched the description, I guess, that Mr. Kissotis gave you for where he went when he was dropping off their goods out in the country, that you went up and down the hunting roads and there were no houses that matched that description, right?
That's correct.
But there are not very many houses on hunting roads in particular, right?
And specifically at the Barrington Ferry and Jones Road, there are no houses.
But the graphic, the presentation that we heard from Agent Bernie from the FBI, it showed a really broad swath of coverage for each of those towers, right?
That's correct.
So did you cover all of those areas, or just that area specifically near where the Mindy's body was found?
In the coverage area, or the imprint, basically where the coloration, where Agent Bernie testified. I don't usually like to refer to what someone else testified to, but
you were here.
That graph, I would say we did by helicopter, pretty much the area of that graph, we covered looking for residences and places and areas and other things. That area, specifically, I remember the yellow one, if you have one to refer back to the slide, the yellow one, we covered that area of the cell phone coverage.
That yellow one was a tighter area, if I recall.
Yes, sir.
More than
It's
the
the
others.
smaller of the areas, yes.
What about the broader areas covered by the other cell towers?
No, we did not cover that whole area, no, sir.
Yeah, I realize it would be a massive undertaking, but I'm
Yes.
just curious if you had done that.
No, sir.
I believe you said that, was it the Pennsylvania State Troopers that looked in the Ford Explorer for you?
That's correct.
And they did not find the Milwaukee knife.
That's correct.
Did they find the deer cleaning kit that was purchased from Bass Pro Shop?
They did not.
Do you know what they found in there in general? In
No,
those-
sir. Well, they sent photographs, but you have those photographs as well. So.
I do. You don't know where Mindi Kassotis was killed.
I do not.
You don't know where Mindi Kassotis was dismembered.
I do not.
You don't have a murder weapon.
I do not.
Okay, I have no more questions.
I thought that was extremely funny, and this part, I have a lot to say regarding this part. Let's watch.
Or a set of questions.
Yeah.
Frank Mebane IV.
Yes, sir.
Your team spoke to him twice, correct?
That's correct.
When did you initially speak to him?
As far as the team or me.
The team.
Okay.
Thank you. No, thank you for clarifying. I don't want to be vague.
I know early on in the investigation, Detective Frost spoke with him. And then it followed up to other interviews, agents from my office, and then I actually had talked to him as well.
When did you speak to him?
It was after the preliminary hearing, much later.
When Detective Frost spoke to Frank, I'll just call him Frank IV, spoke to Frank IV in December, do you recall, well, what did you learn about that discussion that you had with Frank IV?
Objection, Your Honor. He's asking him to testify about another witness's conversation with a third party.
Yeah, I'll sustain the objection.
So, that was the bulk of the cross-examination, but based on how he's left, Now he's pointing at the police that there's a possible collusion here, because we have already heard that Frank the Fourth, because Frank the Third is Mindi's father, that Frank the Fourth, who works for the police, involved in a murder that was sustained, by the way. So, but you would hear it on the testimony. He was involved. He came to prominence basically in the murder case, and now I don't want to think this. But I don't think the defense are going to present this in their closing arguments. But what if the defense is trying to imply here that Bethane found out that Mindi was actually in for a windfall? And I don't know if they're gonna bring in documents to show that Mindi was actually eligible to have a certain amount of money. I don't know if they're gonna bring in documents in regards to that, but they're trying to show, from my opinion, they're trying to show that there's likelihood that the family may have committed foul play and reached out to these people in the force to essentially cover the death, basically, to essentially put it on Nicholas, and they are going to benefit from that. Because the reason why I say that, 32 million seems like a lot of money. 32 million is a lot of money. Whether it's true or not, the fact that Nicholas does have a Delaware account, and I cannot believe in regards to what young black economist said here, that the laws in Delaware is very easy to have these name changes and all those things, and he likely did it to move the money around so that he doesn't have to pay the X. But what if he was moving their money around to also keep it away from their family, because maybe they found out that they were the ones that was actually after them? I'll be surprised if that's their closing argument. I haven't seen anything to support it, but this Frank tidbits that's being left in seems like that's the guy to... I don't believe it personally. I don't believe it. But if I was to give the benefit of the doubt on everything, that's what I'm getting from this course of dimension. But I think he done a really good job in showing how negligent they were in actually getting the final pieces of the puzzle that would actually tie Nick to it. That is just evidence. That is very circumstantial at best. They have a Ford Explorer going in and out. They have a cell tower coverage that even covers up to the BP station, but yet they don't have footage of the BP station washing the car. We can believe your words that he was washing the car, but I mean, wouldn't you like to see him actually do that and get rid of the evidence? Who was at the BP station then? Who was actually there? If it was Jim, guaranteed I would be thinking, if I was a juror and I see that Jim was actually at the BP coverage, I'll be thinking that it's likely that he just came from the woods, because he has to wash off any trace of him even going there, or if he dismembered the woods, he'll be washing the car there. But we don't have anything to say that Jim was even at the petrol station, and that's why there was a lot of work during the cross-examination of, I forgot his name, Bernie, cross-examination of the special agent Bernie, who was doing the accuracy of the cell towers to show that it wasn't completely accurate. It's not a completely accurate depiction of events, you know. So when you look at it, it does not make sense why they would not go for that lead, why they would not why they would even miss out the fingernails, which if Mindi would likely be in a struggle, because we heard testimony from Keith Lamar that there was defensive bruisings on Mindi. That's even more of a reason why you should look at the fingernails, because there might be scratchings from there, and you would have some piece of DNA to trace from it, but they don't look at it. Okay, then you have a lot of I think he did a very good job in showing reasonable doubt, but is it really is it really enough to move the needle? Let's go through the timeline in regards to all of this. Let's look at all the evidence and put it all together now that we have an idea of what has been presented. I don't know if the state has rested yet. They didn't say that they rested today. They might come back tomorrow. So there's a poll going on down running. Is Nick going to testify? A lot of you say no. A lot of you say yes. A lot of you say I should testify as Jim. If they call me, I will 100% go in and give my testimony as Jim. I have been talking with Nick for, of course, gosh. Anyway, no, I can't even lie to save my life. But yeah, a lot of you believe that Jim should essentially testify. Essentially not testify. I would love to know your opinions in the chat. If you're watching this back on replay, let me know in the comment section. Let's just close it all off right now by going through the timeline and the evidence presented so far. So Nick and Eva marries from 2009, and at the same time Cameron meets Nick in the army. You also have his friend Kozlak, Mr. James, Mr. Chris, sorry, not Chris Kozlak, meeting at the same time. But that was a big milestone to highlight because it led to the divorce on the 15th of October 2015. The divorce was granted, citing irreconcilable differences. On June 2015, Heather had met her now husband. On the 16th of October 2015, Heather marries a new husband. Nick retires from the Navy in 2017. In 2018, Jim starts having issues with his accounts in Virginia and reported to the FBI. I think this is when the whole Jim issue started. This is when the whole Jim McIntyre enters the fray, because he may have got that report that was made apparently by to the FBI by Jim. So this is not Jim, sorry, Nicholas. I'm calling him Jim now. Oh my gosh, I'm calling him Jim now. Apologies. Oh my gosh, apologies. I'm calling him Jim now. Damn. God, I'm so confused. Everybody is Jim. Anyway, moving on. 4th of January 2019, and hearing was made where Nick said he had $32 million, but didn't want to pay it to Eva, his first wife. So that should be to Eva. Typos. December 2019, Nick and Mindi started moving around from Virginia to North Carolina. July 2021, Nick says in his testimony in his interview that Mindi was bleeding and was taken to ER at a military base. I believe he meant to say 2022. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but he did say 2021. I believe he meant 2022. But based on what he said on the exact video, 2021 was the date that he was taken to, that Mindi was supposedly taken to the military base. On March and April 2022, Mindi informs Betsy that they are moving again after they tried to sell their house in Georgia. In June 2022, Nicholas rents an Airbnb in Georgia Savannah. June 2022, Sony receives 300K from, sorry, not Sony, Nicholas, gosh. Oh, gosh. Nicholas, typo again. Nicholas received 300K from Sony after receiving payment for his short story. June 2022, Nicholas purchases a Ford Explorer, paying full in cash. I would have loved to see the date or at least the purchasing information, because this is clearly part of a business record. We never saw the purchasing information, but it happened. The defense didn't fight it. On the 8th of June 2022, Jim informed Cameron through Signal that Mindi was pregnant. On the 26th of July 2022, Nicholas Kassotis had a driving license issued in Georgia. It was determined by law enforcement that it had alterations. 16th of August 2022, Nicholas purchases knife, latest gloves, wipes, amongst other items like Coke. He purchased that at Home Depot in Savannah, Georgia. On the 24th of September 2022, Nicholas initiates a Twitter conversation through Twitter pertaining to Samantha's tweet. So he initiates. I'm sorry about this. This is supposed to be initiates conversation with Samantha pertaining to her tweet in regards to the book. I was in two minds when I was clearing or thinking here. But anyway, this was the first time that he spoke to Samantha. So this was on the 24th of September 2022. On the 9th of October 2022, Nicholas indicated to Cameron that Mindi was going to hospital. On the 18th of October 2022, Nicholas informed Samantha that he had lost his wife, Mindi, who was pregnant. Nicholas informs Samantha at this point that he had lost his wife, Mindi, who was pregnant. Nicholas, through a DM, on the 22nd of October 2022, Nicholas, through a DM, says that Mindi had died from an undiagnosed heart issue aggravated by her pregnancy. I don't know. We've been through this. I'm not gonna give. I'm not gonna give my commentary. But anyway, moving on. On the 1st of November. On the 1st of November 2022, Nick had messaged Cameron that he was packing. So he was packing to move around, etc. On that same day, 1st of November 2022, Nick had messaged Cameron saying that Mindi was getting sicker. On the 4th of November 2022, Nicholas purchases a shovel and a fiberglass. I believe this was Home Depot as well. On the 5th to 11th of November 2022, Nicholas informed Samantha on that on the 5th, 8th, 10th and 11th of November that he's going to be going on a road trip. So he said this on different instances to Samantha. On the 24th of November 2022, Mindi's dad sees Mindi looking sickly and was informed by Nick that he was taking her to the hospital. On the 25th of November 2022 to the 30th of November 2022, Nicholas informs the parents of Mindi that Mindi is dead. So this was officially on the 1st of December because of the text messages that we are going to get to that. But this was from Frank's testimony that it was on the 21st to 30th. He didn't really know the exact date. On the 28th of November 2022, Nicholas purchases a knife at Bass Pro. On the 29th of November 2022, sorry, let me go back in. So that was a knife set, not just one knife, a knife set from Bass Pro. On the 29th of November 2022, Nicholas purchases a Milwaukee smooth blade installation knife. On the 29th of November 2022, Nicholas was seen leaving the hunting club area after he had entered as well. On the 27th to the 29th of November 2022, maggots and insects likely began feasting on Mindi's body. On the 30th of November 2022, Mindi supposedly died on this day, according to Nicholas' interview, where he said on Thursday he was told she was dead. So this would be on the 1st as well. This would be on the 1st of December as well. On the 30th to the 1st of December 2022, Frank has a hip replacement surgery. On the 1st of December 2022, it was the belief that Mindi had died on this date from Betsy when speaking with law enforcement. And he had also messaged and reached out to Cameron Mindi, to Cameron, saying that Mindi had died at this point. On the 2nd of December 2022, Mindi's torso was found at a hunting club. A knife was also found at the scene. On the 3rd of December 2022, Mindi's right leg was found. On the 5th of December 2022, Mindi's left leg was found in a tote after a canine search. On the 5th of December 2022, Nicholas reaches out to Cameron, to Mindi. That should be saying, sorry. Oop. Anyway, Nicholas reaches out to Cameron saying Mindi had died of a stroke. So of course this is an inconsistent statement because of the fact that we have of course heard him say to his new wife that she had died of heart problems, essentially. On the 7th of December 2022, Mindi's head was found buried by the canine team on the 7th of December 2022. 11th of December 2022, Nicholas indicates to Cameron that he had Mindi's ashes back. On the 16th of December 2022, Nicholas sends selfies and license to Samantha, his third wife, to prove his identity before meeting her. On the 19th of December 2022, Nicholas informs Joseph West over the phone that Mindi had passed away from an infection in the hospital. On December 2022, Agent Sands speaks with Frank Bethane, the fourth, who is the son of Frank Bethane the third. So on January 2023, Nicholas sends her an email to prove he worked at a company called Apis. On the 4th of January 2023, Nicholas changes his last name from Kissotis to Stark in St. Louis, citing domestic violence as a reason. On the 13th of January 2023, Nicholas had a name change in Delaware to Nicholas Kassotis. On February 2023, Nicholas says that Jim had detected something wrong with his vehicle. On the 20th of March 2023, Nicholas and Samantha were looking for properties to purchase. Apparently, a down payment was made on a property. And on the 20th of March 2023, this was the same day that Nicholas was admitted into hospital after his car had gone into flames. On the 28th of March 2023, Nicholas messaged Cameron that his car had exploded and the other phone had died in a fire. On the 10th of April 2023, Nicholas and Samantha were issued their marriage license. They got married on the 22nd of April 2023. On the 19th of April 2023, an email was sent to Betsy and others in regards to others saying that that Nicholas had died at this point. So that was on the 19th of April 2023. On the 2nd of May 2023, Betsy communicates with Agent Sands regarding the emails. On the 11th of May, Agent Sands makes contact with Samantha Kolesnich, and on the 12th of May 2023, Nicholas was arrested and interviewed on this day. And he was also interviewed on the 26th of May 2023. So that's the whole timeline of all of this. This case, I have no idea what's gonna happen tomorrow. Tomorrow might just be the closing arguments, or maybe that'll be on day 8. But it could be Nicholas might take the stand. He might not take the stand. I personally want him to take the stand. You guys know my stance on that. No matter what, you have to take the stand and defend yourself. But he might exercise his Fifth Amendment privilege. to not testify because he has not done anything that requires an affirmative testimony, something like that. So he just doesn't have to testify. But I would love to hear how he says all this, because to me, based on the fact that he got married on the 23rd and he had already, and there was emails being sent to the parents on the 19th, in my opinion, this really does suggest that he was starting a new life. But at the same time, just looking at all of it, I want to know why someone would want to set him up. I literally want to know why. I haven't seen that. There's nothing presented to show that someone does want him gone. It's only the parents, his parents, apparently that he was adopted. It's only his parents that essentially would have wanted him gone for some reason. So why would they target Mindi? There's so many questions to be asked in regards to everything that has come out in this case. I don't have the answers. It's not the jury's job to try and solve what's happening in this case. I think based on the evidence, there is just a likelihood that they might just give him the felony part. I definitely don't think that based on what's presented that you can prove malice, or you can show premeditation, sure, but you can't even connect him to the scene. And there's so many parts. I know you can put circumstantial evidence here to say, yeah, we saw a Ford Explorer go in, but you don't have his vehicle number, you don't have his license plate, you don't even have him washing the vehicle. So how do you even begin to connect him to the scene? Like, at what point? We have to ask the question here. If he's going there to dispose of the body, did he kill her there as well? So that means she was alive in the car. This is the impression that we're getting, that she was alive in the car driving into that place, and then he kills her there. We don't know how. We don't know. We just know that there was traumas on Mindi. We don't know how. We don't know if it was used an armor we don't know how she was subdued. We haven't heard any testimony in regarding to skull fractures or any fracture around her body that may suggest forceful, a way that could be shown how she was even subdued to even begin the dismembering. But I just can't see a motive. At least for Nick, they are trying to establish a motive because he wants to move on with someone new. But Mindi, it just doesn't make sense why you would need to kill her to do that. You can just get a divorce like he had in the first place when he even met Mindi. So what would be the reason that he would go and kill her? What would be the reason for someone even targeting Mindi? There is just, I don't see it. I don't see concretely how you can, every circumstantial evidence, I'm not going to deny it, it does point to him. I'm not going to deny it. The cell tower is there, all this thing is there. But you cannot ignore how they have dropped the ball here, especially with that fingernail that they have said that's where they're most likely going to get the DNA from. You can't drop the ball like that. We have heard so many times, you get one bite at this, you get one bite at the apple, so they have to be careful. Yet, you don't collect the fingernails that, you don't have the camera from the washing station. That is literally, to me, that is just a bit, it's not selling it. Maybe you can sell it on the felony. Maybe he is going to get that. Maybe he's going to get the concealing of the dead body, because we do have proof that he has said that Mindi had died. We got text messages of that. So if he says that he died, he must have done something to conceal the body. So even though you can't prove the dismembering, you can definitely prove that he likely concealed the body. So I think that might come back. But what do you guys think? What do you guys actually think? This case, in just trying to figure it out, it's it's mind-boggling. Just like Lexi the Law Nerd, I can't come up with a good motive either. I can't come up with a good motive that is tying Nick to all this. And I think that the questions at the end were brilliant to just highlight that it's like they didn't even try to tie him to it. They just believe, okay, we have this. We don't know who we did it, but we're not gonna bother looking. Let's just put it on him. That's what it seems like. Let's just put it all on him because we just don't have. We just can't. We don't have the resources. That's what it seems like. We already heard testimony that they are understaffed, that they should have even done more testing. You can't excuse that. You really can't excuse that, because end of the day, you are supposed to be efficient with your money. You could have done, if you really needed to cut back and you really had no money, you really could have just made sure that you just had the key parts that you need to establish somebody and just test only that. Did you have to get the maggots? Did you really have to get the cell tower coverage? Did you? Why didn't you just get the CCTV camera and just focus on that? Why did you have to go and pay the FBI agents to come in and do? There's so many things to go around in regards to the budget issue that I just don't think it's plausible to even argue that there was budgetary issues that they couldn't have done more with this case. I think that's bizarre. They didn't even, they didn't even add the Mindi to May. That's insane. And May was when they even started doing the interviews. So how, that's, to me, that, I mean, for all they are presented to have seemed to be really on the ball here, they dropped it hard. I cannot, like every case that I've watched, I've always seen the medical examiners always looking at the fingernails, even though they are definitely sure that someone had been shot, someone had been shot in a way that it's clear who shot it, that they would need to focus more on the ballistics report and all of those things. Even though that's the case, they still make sure that they go to the fingernails to see what DNA that they could find. For us to not have it here is bizarre, especially when the corpse, when the body was as deteriorated as it did. You really should have been careful. But that's on the prosecution. I do think that the prosecution made this case more confusing than it needed to be, in my opinion. I think that they done way too much. You have all the circumstantial evidence, but all this going to find his bank records, it's all these things to show his Airbnb purchases. Like, all of those resources could have been spent on just making sure that you secure the most important thing, which is the same CCTV on the same exact day that he was apparently driving into this thing. Like, come on. You don't have that? This is not me saying that Nicholas did it or not. I'm just saying, if you're trying to prove a case, tie him to the scene. That's the first step. That is the first step. How does this person go to the scene? And if so, can we just be sure to eliminate him from the scene? They haven't done that. In my opinion. But it's a perfect storm. No one thought she was missing. Absolutely. Everyone thought she was dead. Most people, anyway. So I think the one thing that does look bad, and I don't know how they're gonna salvage it, because we have him meeting up with the new wife. That's the only part that I think ruins his case completely. I'll be very honest. It's not proof of the murder, but it sure is shady. Why why would you move on to this next woman in the name Nicholas Stark, and on top of that, marry her, and your life was still in fear? And Jim was the one that was telling you, go ahead and marry her and move on with your life. It just, that interview just, yeah, it looks bad, but it doesn't prove he killed Mindi. It does not prove he killed Mindi, because what you need to tie him to tie. Honestly, if we just have just that CCTV, honestly, if we have the CCTV at the watch station, that would have been it for me. I would have thought, yeah, that's enough. That's enough to tie him to the scene. You don't need DNA after that. That it's just right there. Anyone with common sense would believe that he came from there, and it's the same vehicle washing at the scene like they theorize. But we don't have that evidence in. We just have to believe the agent testimony. So that's just my 2 cents in regards to this. We are going to be back tomorrow for the day 7 recap, which is like, we might see Nicholas on the stand, we might not. We might even hear the closing arguments tomorrow. But so we wouldn't hear it tomorrow because they would have time. They would have to get time to prepare. But we might hear it on day 8. So they did say that the trial might come to an end this week. But yeah. So this recap was, it's a very long one. It's probably my longest. I mean, because I just had to get all the full record in and just go through all this key testimony, because it's really important, especially if you've been following from day 1 recap. The payoff in what has coming today should make sense. And my videos are not this long. I always try to keep it under 2 hours, but this one, it had to be extended. Next time, if I do plan to do an extended stream, I will definitely let you guys know in advance. But in all fairness, I thought I'll be out and get all this out quickly. But there was so much I had to say in regards to that. Trial Channel says, why would he promise Sam a relationship basically before Mindi was gone? I don't, and this is the thing, like, if he never met Samantha, like, if Samantha says that he tried meeting with me, but he kept falling apart, we tried, like, he says he was gonna get a house, we were supposed to meet up at the house, but his car exploded, so we couldn't meet up. We couldn't meet up, something like that. If he said something like that, if she said something like that, we tried to meet up on this day, we never met up, we never 100% met up, we just got married because he wanted to or something like that. All we were talking was online. They never actually met. I think that bolsters his testimony so much. I think that would have bolstered his theory so much that he's being set up here. But the fact that they met up, Samantha and Nicholas, and even spent time together and all those things, does not make sense. It does not make sense why he would even be seeing somebody else when you're supposed to be in hiding. It just destroys the theory. It completely destroys the theory. So that's the only part of the whole thing that I believe is strongly puts away the theory, but I cannot look away at how some parts of the evidence actually do line up with what Nicholas theorized. So anyway, thank you so much, Rufan, for joining. I appreciate you. I will see you tomorrow. See everyone tomorrow. Charles China says, lots to cover. We're all just chilling. It's all good. No, it's the replay crew. It's the replay crew. I try to keep it as concise and short as possible, but on this occasion, you can enjoy this as an extended recap. But I appreciate you. I appreciate. Jay Story says, it's all good. Enjoyed hanging out and catching up so much in this case to cover. There is. I'll enjoy this case. I never thought it would end like this, because I didn't think, based on that cross-examination and what was highlighted, I didn't think there was that much discrepancy. I didn't even notice the gas station not having a camera into record. That's weird. But yeah, thank you so much, every single one of you, for tuning in. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. We shall be back tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, 11 p.m. UK time. And, you know, check the time zones from there. We will be live whenever we go live. It will always be 6 p.m. Eastern time. So you can always count on that. I will be communicating with all of you on the community post section. So make sure that you look out for all of that. Make sure that you also check the description. That's where I will leave the playlist for all the other catch-ups so that you can binge watch if you're able to. Also check out the trial channel. She has compiled all of the footage from this trial, making it easier for you to watch the full trial in segments and have cuts so that you don't watch the breaks and all that. You can just get the full testimonies wherever you are. So it will be an easier catch up if you can watch it there. So do go check out the trial channels. I have the link in the description. You can also check out the documents as well pertaining to this case. I have that also in the description. So yeah, like Leslie and Law Alert, I did go into this case very blind and watching only for Doug. But I mean, this is my first time knowing of Doug. I've never seen Doug Weinstein in action, but for this amount of evidence against him, it's impeccable lawyering. I'll give him to that. But I did not expect all of this. I did not even, it's so much twists and turns. We'll be back tomorrow for all of that. Take good care of yourself. Have a great day or evening. I have been Hines, your friendly neighborhood catch-up man. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have fun. Take good care of yourself. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Catch Up Court podcast. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe for more legal cases that we cover on this channel. We do nothing but cover legal cases and true crime on here. You can also check out our playlist that we have of all of our content. They're all available in the playlist option. Make sure you go check that out. So make sure that you hurry back and catch up with us. See you on the next one. Bye for now.